Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Minister has reached the venue and will be arriving shortly. May I request everyone at the back to please take their seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome a distinguished global diplomat and national leader shaping India's energy future with strategic insight and unwavering commitment, Shri Hardeep Singh Puri, Honorable Union Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas. With decades of experience in global governance and diplomacy, the Honorable Minister has steered India's energy sector through a period of extraordinary transformation, anchored in security, sustainability and self-reliance. India's transition to a balanced energy mix, embracing cleaner fuels, diversifying sources and building resilient supply chains is being led with clarity and resolve under the Honorable Minister's guidance. From advancing city gas distribution and energy access to pioneering the adoption of green fuels, the Ministry is catalyzing investments and innovation that position India as a global energy leader. Indian industry deeply values the Honorable Minister's close collaboration with CII and his vision to build a robust, future-ready energy ecosystem, supporting industrial growth, environmental responsibility and national energy security. As we convene for this special plenary, we are privileged to welcome a leader whose work is shaping a new energy narrative for a new India. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in extending a warm and respectful welcome to Shri Hardeep Singh Puri, Honorable Union Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas.
A very good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this very special session on securing India's energy future, transition and global alignment. We have with us today our chief guest for this session, Shri Hardeep Singh Puri, Honorable Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. To begin with, may I request Mr. Rajiv Memani, President Designate, Confederation of Indian Industry, to please deliver the welcome remarks.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Very warm welcome. It's a privilege to welcome our Honorable Minister. His visionary leadership has been instrumental in steering India's energy policy towards greater security, sustainability, and global alignment. And we would like to thank you, as we saw in the video, for your continued engagement with CII. The theme of today's session, Securing India's Energy Future, Transition and Global Alignment, is both timely and essential. Energy continues to be the most fundamental driver to India's development and also global engagement. As India moves towards being the third largest economy in a matter of few years, and given the GDP growth and the energy consumption, and also with the way digital infrastructure is being laid out, the energy demand is going to grow probably much more faster than what we have seen in the past. and ensuring that energy is met through reliable and sustainable means is both a national and global priority. Today, India imports over 85% of its crude oil, and some projections do suggest that this percentage may go higher in the years to come. And we also import roughly about 50 to 55% of our natural gas. In the last 10 years, our crude output has come down from 36 million tons to about 30 million tons. And to its credit, the Indian government has been implementing several policies in the last 4-5 years to try and encourage greater crude oil production in the country. The hydrocarbon exploration and licensing policy helped replaced NELP, which was, and that was much more forward-looking. The open acreage licensing policy was also quite path-breaking. And the recent proposed Oil Field Regulation and Development Amendment Act modernizes the outdated 1948 law. And I know that it addresses several industry concerns that were there earlier. India also wants to shift to a much greater gas pathway from 7% to 15% by 2030, and also on gas, both on LPG and particularly in case of PNG, a lot of investments have been made in ensuring, at least in urban areas, there's a shift towards PNG. And likewise, on the LNG infrastructure also is being expanded with new terminals coming in. The flagship initiatives such as the ethanol blending program, the SATAT scheme for compressed biogas, and the promotion of clean cooking fuels are contributing to reduced import dependency while fostering rural economic growth and creating green jobs. On the international stage, India's leadership in initiatives such as Global Biofuel Alliance, along with strategic collaborations with the International Energy Agency and other energy-abundant nations, underscores our dedication to jointly develop sustainable energy solutions. CII remains deeply committed to working with the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas and all stakeholders to facilitate knowledge exchange, policy dialogue, and collaborations, ensuring that India's energy journey continues to be inclusive, innovative, and internationally integrated. I would once again like to thank the Honorable Minister for joining us today. We look forward to his insights on how India can continue to shape the global energy narrative while securing its own resilient and sustainable energy future. I would like to welcome you, sir. You would.
Can I speak from here?
There. Okay.
In the interest of full disclosure, I'm an old-time member of the CII Admiration Society. So all the nice things that my friend has said about me, the President-designate, that should provide the perspective. Actually, I think Mr. Memani has already provided an overview of what the challenges are. He has touched on some of the things we've done. He's been a little polite. He has not touched on some of the things we should have done by now. But I was under the impression we were going to be in an interactive format, but since he's given me freedom and he's given me the floor, what I will do is I will spend just a few minutes to share with you some of my thoughts, some of the good things we've done, some of the points on which I have anxiety sometimes, and where I think we should be headed, where I think we are headed. First of all, the name itself, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. I think I have a lot of my, they are called oil marketing companies. They are highly successful public sector units. I think they made a profit of what? Last year was 1,59,000 crores. And if they get back the 40,000 crores which we own them on one charge, this year the profits will also be in that range. So they're highly successful entities. And that also reflects, in a sense, the overall energy and robust state of the energy economy in India. I think I spend 50% of my time in trying to shore up the E&P part of it, exploration and production, because we lost about 10 years between 2006 and 16. Because of the nature of agreements that we had, there were a lot of disputes, a lot of conflicts. So we decided to move then from production sharing to revenue sharing agreements. But that was only the beginning. This was in 2016, well before I came on the scene. Again, in the interest of disclosure, I'm now almost 4 years old. I will be in the next few days holding this portfolio. Earlier, I was holding it also in conjunction with Housing and Urban Affairs. I think, seriously speaking, if you look at the kind of work we do, the ministry could easily be rechristened the Ministry for Energy Transition. Because we are spending a lot of time on biofuels, now increasingly on other forms of clean energy, green hydrogen, to give you a little bit. Our effort to take gas from the hitherto 6% in our economy to 15%. This is one of my laments. I think we should have been closer to 15%, but I still think we are progressing, but at a rate which could be higher, and I think we are redoubling our efforts to do that. The sheer enormity of the scale is something that one needs to comprehend before we open this up for discussion. Seriously speaking, I don't know how many of you know the number of people who go to retail outlets every day to get energy of different kinds, petrol, diesel, maybe CNG. Any rough guesses? I don't know, but it's a mind-boggling 6 crore 70 lakhs people. Every day they go to retail outlets. Now, if you give that figure in any other country, I mean, there are countries whose population size and this kind of figure doesn't square up. And if you ask about increase in consumption, in demand, I'll just share one statistic with you. The International Energy Agency, based in Paris, says that in the next 2 decades, 25% of the overall global increase in demand will come from India. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that this sector produces what, 20% of the country's overall revenue? 19-20%? So the importance of the sector, the importance of what is being done, the increase in E&P, I don't want to bore you, but I don't think ONGC, I see the chairman here, highest number of wells that he's dug after 37 years. I remember a figure, yeah. Now, digging a well is easier said than done. Why do I say that? Number one, it costs a lot of money. The average expenditure on digging a well onshore should be around $4 million. And offshore, it should be what, $100 million? Now, the big finds, let's say, if you were to look at the recent big finds, I would say Guyana would be top of the line. How many wells did they drill offshore before they actually found the oil? 27? 47. So 47 offshore wells were dug, each costing about $100 million, and then you found, now that's become an expression. Look, I'm confident. Partly I'm normally confident, but here I'm really confident that in the Andaman Sea, there are many Guyanas waiting to be found. And believe me, all the progress that we talk about, 4th largest economy, 3rd largest, you get one big find like that, it will be what I call a, you have to find the right expression, a huge transformation multiplier in terms of your economic strength. And it's going to happen. Why? Because the government is, not only government has, but the government is constantly revising that ecosystem. What does that mean? I mentioned going from production sharing agreements to revenue sharing agreements in 2016. Why was that necessary? Because, you can get a big, one of the big oil majors in the world, you have your own major private sector players, and then you get into a conflict, nahi, ye gas meri nahi thi, uski hai, and it turns into litigation and so on. So revenue sharing is easier, and a lot of people are not willing to commit themselves upfront, but you say, come, give us your technical services, we will compensate you for those, and if there is a fine, you'll have the right to first refusal. I think I can cite 2 or 3 cases offhand. ONGC's partnership with BP in Mumbai High. Oil India's partnership with Petrobras in the Andaman Sea, just to give you 2 examples. So what is happening is truly that lost decade, 2006 to 16, I don't want to make a political part of it, but everything came to a grinding halt. So then we started in 2016. We didn't stop there. By the way, we have about 3.5 million square kilometers of sedimentary basin, out of which 1 million was what is called a no-go area, which means you couldn't go there because some part of the system, either defense-related or space-related, would turn around and say, no, we want this exclusivity. The Prime Minister one day just took a decision and bang, it soon opened up. Now, if you look at the open area licensing policy, open acreage licensing policy, OALP, round 9, I think 37-38% of the bids came in that area which is opened up. And I think the next round, 10th round, which is now being processed, I think even most of them will end up here. Biofuels, I mentioned, you mentioned it, Mr. Memani, we've gone from 1.4% biofuel blending to 20%. 20% blending was our target for 2026. We've already achieved it. How much further will we go? We will need the industry support. There are parts of the industry, certainly those are my friends who deal with the automobile sector. They say, bahut ho gaya, 20%. There are others. No, because going forward, it will be moving to cleaner energy. One last concluding comment I want to make. We spent last year, if memory serves me right, something like $139 billion on imports. Why aren't we being able to bring the figure down? Well, our consumption is going up, demand is going up. And even as we make all the improvements in E&P, I mean, I just compiled a list for sending to the boss that, these are the green shoot discoveries we've made. These are the main things we've done. And I think going forward, this will multiply. But still, for petrol, crude oil, when I became petroleum minister 4 years ago, we used to import for consumption 5 million barrels a day, 5 million barrels a day. Today, it's close to 5.6 million barrels a day. And as the economy progresses, because energy is not a reasonably good, it is a decisive indicator of how well your economy is doing. If your energy consumption is up, and if you want to assess any other country, check, there may be a different form of energy, but energy is an essential prerequisite for economic progress. And if the energy consumption is going down, you can be reasonably sure that there are fault lines there and some problem. Today, after the last tender, which I think IOCL has opened, the people who deal with green hydrogen, when I became a minister, one of my first conversations was with the then Energy Secretary of the United States, Jennifer Greenhalgh. And she said, Minister, our target is 1 for 1 in 10 years. That is $1, 1 kilo of green hydrogen for $1 to be achieved in 10 years. Now, whenever I when I started getting familiar with that, I think that looks very distant. Because what they told me was that the most reasonable price for green hydrogen per kilo at that stage was something like $5.50 per kilogram. Then we opened the last tender, and what do you need for green hydrogen? Basically, you need reasonably priced clean energy, solar energy. We have no problems on that. We have pump storage, all kinds of technological developments have taken, and you need an electrolyzer. The last tender that was opened was how much? 10 10,000 metric tons. Not a small quantity, yet this can be multiplied. And I think the price has already come down to less than $4, which I think is a great improvement. Because if you can, on scale, and since you have larger electrolyzers and you have abundance of reasonably priced clean energy available, and all that green hydrogen produces, that is in the 15 buses which IOCL have, 2 or 3 are plying in Delhi, and I think the others will start, they'll get their 80 kilometers clearance, will start plying soon. All you produce on the road is water vapor. So green hydrogen, I think, is the fuel of the future. But when will we get to that in a big scale? I can only share my optimism with you. I think if we see what we can do between now and 2030, after that a quantum jump will come. And believe me, if green hydrogen actually takes off, and we've got a very good biofuel blending program, and then you have flex fuel vehicles, you have CNG, etc., it will be a totally new ecological boost that the energy sector will receive. I think I've spoken longer than I had intended to, but since you gave me the floor, that's a risk you ran. Okay. I'm open for question, answers, or anything.
Maybe I can ask
you can ask me as many as you like.
So, Honorable Minister, you talked elaborately about the efforts that have been made in upstream, and I completely agree that for a long time in between, I think we didn't change the regulations to attract investments. And it does, as you rightly said, it requires huge amount of risk capital. It requires a long-term investor's mindset and increasingly greater reliance on technology going forward. And therefore, regulations become very, very important because people have to have a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year outlook when they invest upfront. Historically, a lot of this is being led by some of our large public sector undertakings which you talked about. And you did talk about some of the partnerships. And as we engage and as we talk to a lot of the global majors or even the independent oil companies that are there, there's the willingness to fully invest and go, if I was to use the word all in India on hydrocarbon, the muscle memory of the past still seems to be there. So is there do you think there's an opportunity to do more bilateral open deals, at least it's a bit like what India did with Apple. It opened the floodgates on what electronics manufacturing was. But you got one, you shepherded through the system, you got them on the ground, whatever issues that they had, which were legitimate issues, were sorted out. And then after that, now everyone wants to replicate that.
I think you've zeroed in on the precise issue. Look, let me tell you what was happening in the past. You had CMDs of the OMCs coming in for short durations. Their primary desire was to project that their quarter-on-quarter profitability remained attractive for a variety of reasons. But that's how you judge them, that's how you grade them in terms of what kind of ratnas they are, etc. So if you were a CMD and you have a choice between showing a higher profit or digging more wells, what would you do? Show a higher profit. In the process, digging wells became a secondary thing till we came and changed it. And we changed it not only by encouraging them, tell them that, look, you will actually be remembered more for this, for the progress here. And I think we have a team in place now which realizes that. You see the kind of progress they are registering. But more than that, the action that needed to be taken by the government in changing that ecosystem, we did that. And I think that new piece of legislation which you mentioned is intended precisely for that. I can read out some of the very, very interesting things that have come on with the new legislation. You mentioned previous one was 1948. I mean, it's absurd to have a 1948 piece of legislation which was there both for coal mining and other mining and petrol leases. to be part of the same. It's a very different world. So we did that. We opened up no-go areas. We did a number of other steps. But let me just share with you some of the things that this legislation does. And by the way, we are also now, we put in the public domain the regulations, the rules which are being made to give effect to the laws. And we have made it known if there's still something in the legislation or in the rules which require further tweaking, we'd be very happy to do that. We don't meet our interlocutors from outside. The BP the entire board was visiting. I invited them home for dinner. They met the Prime Minister. And our line is, you've got technology, yes, even if you are reluctant to go there, we'll access that technology on commercial terms. We will do a joint venture with you, and it's working. Let me just... No, the main features of the ORDA Act, I think, need to be spelled out. It separates mining and petroleum operations, they were part of the same act in 1948. Implements a single permit system for all oil and gas activities, including unconventional fuels. Single window, single permit. Clarifies mineral oils to include new fuel sources like shale gas and methane. Establishes frameworks for resource sharing between operators. Provides stability in lease tenure and conditions for foreign investors. Focuses on decriminalization with increased penalties. Prevents mid-lease changes in cess royalties. Additional taxes are adjusted against royalties. And then number of the steps that we've taken along with this. I would like to think, again, I want to be careful with my choice of words. No country in the world has gone this far in changing its rules as we have. This is for upstream. Somebody asked me, but you know, आपने बीच में वो windfall tax लगा दिया था. And I point to this legislation. I said, if this legislation had been around, I shouldn't say this too openly, but that imposition of the windfall tax could not have taken place because you would have rightly sued us for it. Okay? Now we have got a new law, and I think it's good for the executive also to remain under a check on that. But what has all this done for the consumer? And I think that's the important thing. Today, the number of cylinders we have, now I'm talking about cylinder gas which is produced from a refinery, from crude oil, number of connections has gone up from 14 crores in 2014 to 33 crores plus. Now, if you go on the assumption that one connection is for one household and you have a population of 1.4 billion people, then you've really saturated the entire thing because if you're 33 crores and one household, let us have, has 4 people, you're roughly saturated it. Our pipe natural gas, we had 14,000 kilometers of pipeline in 2014. We have an aim of 33,000 by 2030. We are already at 23,000 or so. But what is the cost to the consumer? Now, earlier this cylinder gas and gas is all purely an urban phenomenon. Then in 2016, we introduced the Ujjwala scheme, which if you are a benefit...
we discussed this, you mentioned 6% to 15%. Globally also, it looks like when we look at Saudi Arabia, you look at other countries, the amount of capital, if you look at their capital allocation models, a lot of that right now is obviously on hydrogen and petchem, but also a large amount on LNG, LNG infrastructure, taking out gas and everything else. It'll be good to get at least your insights on, are we as a country, are we pushing hard enough on building the LNG infrastructure, having strategic tie-ups? You announced some of them in the conference also recently.
Well, let's take both crude oil and gas separately, natural gas. Yeah. First of all, as far as crude oil is concerned, my reading is that more and more crude will become available. More and more is already becoming available from the Western Hemisphere. I mean, you've got Brazil has what, 3 million barrels they produce a day, another 140,000 has come. Guyana is, of course, very big. Suriname, Canada, So there is more and more coming. OPEC Plus had cut its production. I think globally it came down from what, 92 million barrels a day to about 87 or so. Now they are making, reintroducing something I saw somewhere, 400,000 barrels I saw was restored. I don't think there is a shortage. But meanwhile, since you're talking about strategic tie-up, what we've done is we've diversified from 27 countries from which we imported to about 40 now. We bought consignments from Argentina also. So I think the good news is that we've been able to navigate it reasonably well. And I have total confidence that in the going forward, with more energy being available, we will be able to navigate it further also. Insofar as natural gas is concerned, I think the good news is that after 2027, there will be more gas available in the global marketplace. That is what it will help us. Because frankly, there are a lot of power plants, I think, power plants which are lying close because you didn't have the gas, etc. So I see gas prices becoming stable and coming down. We've been victims, I should choose my words carefully and apply it. We have been, we've been charged more than we should have been charged. So when, some global turbulence took place and people say, oh, you're buying from Russia. I said, I think my Prime Minister's first and his moral duty is to make sure that the consumer gets supplied. I said, if you had oil in your backyard, we'd buy from you also. But the point is, there was never any sanction on Russian oil. There was never any sanction on Russian. All we were told is you to buy within the price cap. And that's music to my ears. I buy and I buy cheaper. Very good. Now, one of the major growth areas in the United States, if you are looking at the trade negotiation, I think we can afford to buy more, certainly much more natural gas from the United States. Petrol also, if they have it. We are an energy deficit country and we seem to have an insatiable appetite, so we'll buy more. And I think as we go forward, this is one of the more fascinating parts of the global trading system. And I think thanks to our private sector, which is buoyant, and our OMCs we've conducted, government doesn't do buying. I mean, very often I try and explain to my colleagues in parliament, government's job is to make sure there is availability, make sure it's affordable, and make sure that the sustainability doesn't suffer. It's the companies which do the buying and selling, and they pay a cess. Government reduced the central cess on 2 occasions, I think November 2021 and May 2022 by 13 rupees and 16 rupees on petrol and diesel respectively. And if the government has a program to feed people 3 meals of dry ration in a day, which is still continuing, well, it comes from the revenues collected from such activity. But you're absolutely right, strategic tie-ups, governments on the other side also don't deal with it. I mean, if you're dealing with the Saudis, it's Aramco which will deal with it. If you're dealing with Qataris, yes. I mean, we have a long-term agreement with Qatar. It was supposed to last till 2028, but we signed another 20 years agreement. And I think we are going about it the right way. But it is something that needs to be sustained. And every time there is a challenge and some turbulence, my advice to my younger colleagues who are heading the OMCs is, you treat every challenge as an opportunity and seize it.
Absolutely. Can I just? Oh yeah. If you look at the, in some ways some of your previous experience may be coming to good use now, given the current geopolitics, geoeconomics, global uncertainties. If you were to crystal gaze on the future of energy sector, oil pricing, and relative to India, I'm not trying to predict the price, but relative to India, what changes in terms of energy basket, how India engages, how do we also leverage it strategically, where we are buying oil from, how we are buying oil or gas or whatever?
The current major producers of energy are well known. Okay, so if you want to source your crude, you've got a geographically proximate area in the Gulf next door. Yeah. You've got another old traditional supplier currently under sanctions. I don't want to comment on the sanctions part, but you know, I'm optimistic in overall terms. I think some stage that problem will be resolved, and Iran will become a major supplier again. If you look at Russia, they used to produce 13 million barrels after the Ukraine conflict. It came down considerably, but they can ramp up production again. The United States has, I think, also a very major producer. They're probably the largest producer, 13 plus million barrels they produce. And I think as a result of, dig, dig baby dig, huh? Drill baby drill. Another 1.6 million barrels will come, so 13 plus 1.6. I mean, these are all figures bandied about. But I see global prices, and here I have to be very careful. I used to have a running discussion, not discussion, disagreement with one of my colleagues in a nice banter. He used to say, price 80 jayega. मेरे को तो price 65 के आसपास लग रहा है. Because what happens is that even when there are disruptions, the market discounts, because the market knows that there is more supply available. Now, you have to be intelligent in that. Obviously, if you got strategic reserves, you want to fill them up when the price is low, because it can go up. But even our strategic reserves, I'm not sharing something, 50% we use for commercial, and so that, but you have a big operation. At any given point of time, the refineries have a lot of oil. The platforms which are carrying the crude are also available. So we look at our overall sector, and I think they strategize pretty well. I also see good coordination between the private sector and the public sector entities dealing with this. I worry sometimes that maybe on the shipping front we haven't done enough. We need to do more, including domestic shipping. But other than those nuances, I think we are doing okay. But my sense is the prices, with more supplies becoming available, prices will be close to 65, not to 80.
No, my question also was that with most of our current partners where we are buying from, we have trade deficit with them. Yeah. Trade deficit with them.
I know where you were going, and I skillfully avoided that part. If your question, I'm quite happy to walk right into it. The question he's asking is, if you have a trade with a partner, say $45 billion trade deficit, can I make it up by buying more petrol and this? That was your question. I skillfully avoided it, but now I'm going to answer it since you came back to it second time. Look, last year I bought $14 billion worth of energy from that country. I could quite easily raise it to $25 billion if the price is right, etc. And I think price could be right. This is a matter of negotiation. But I think most of my companies, they have a very good nose. They go around smelling where opportunities are, and they will do the right thing. You had Piyush here yesterday, no?
Yesterday evening.
Yesterday evening. So you should have asked him the question directly.
He was talking about the Indian economy in general. So.
Oh, okay.
No, one other, and I'm asking a slightly unrelated question, but on, when we talk to a lot of private sector, when they're looking at investments in the oil and gas space, especially upstream gas, availability of risk capital is not there. And even the sovereigns view gas in the same, historically, a lot of that has changed post-Trump. They viewed gas in some ways as, not environmentally friendly, which it may not be entirely environmentally friendly. And therefore, capital that was available for clean tech, sustainable, available to startups, sovereign funds. I'm talking more of India, I'm not talking of global. But, for them to raise, and it's impossible to raise money from public markets, debt is not available. So for a lot of them, and especially for the smaller fields, even if they have the confidence that it'll do well, just availability of capital to scale up is not there. So is there something?
I was slightly different. I never disagree with you, but I've lived in New York. I've interacted with the guys who make that kind of capital available. I don't know what you call it, but If they are making it available to others, why wouldn't they make it available to you? I think we spoilt our case that in those 10 years we did nothing. The old experiences ended up in disputes, and therefore we partly, walked out of the market ourselves. And that's what happened. I mean, if I don't want to name any private, I know my colleague was with me when I went to New York and interact with people. They're actually wanting to come here. They're wanting to look at what to do of the Indian, because there's a realization in the global centers where that kind of capital is available, that maybe one large economy, which is $20 trillion today, is, saturating or whatever it is. No, it's still, if you get 3% rate of growth on a 20 trillion base, it's a lot of money still. But they look at the India prospect. So I think if you have a good project, the money will be available.
Excellent. We have,
I have time, yeah. So this gentleman here has been wanting to ask a question.
please.
Mic le lena bhaiya.
Jai Hind and Sat Shri Akal, sir. My Rajesh Arora. Sir, first thing is that the PNG, which is a dual precondition in Haryana or wherever, just to cut the pollution, the distribution ship is just one agency, and they are really monopolizing and making position very wrong in Haryana. And PNG is very important. It is 30% PNG and 70% generator diesel. And just one agency is really making our life very, very difficult, whether it is industries or whether it is campuses.
No, basically the point you're making is that city gas distribution, I think that's the area you're talking about. There it should be given to different
at least more than one.
I fully empathize with you, etc. What has happened is that these GAs, they are called, no, geographical areas, they are auctioned. They are auctioned, and somebody comes. But I take your point, and I am on your side on this one.
So secondly, you also mentioned that the public sector and the private sector is very, very conducive with each other. So with
I never said very conducive. Hey,
Okay.
I would get worried if they become condusive with
okay,
each other.
sir. Okay, I take my words back.
I said I see reasonable coordination there. If they become conducive, then I start getting worried.
Okay, sir.
Because these guys have my OMCs also have a Samaj Seva, reaching out to help society, supplying, making sure petrol prices don't go up. They have a loan. They're good corporate citizens. I'm not saying the other guys are not. So, but they have to coordinate, because if India goes into the global market with what they are buying and what the private sector is buying, it gives them more economic clout.
So I take my words back. But sir, the Petronet management is really, really very rude. I'm not being
You're a Petronet admirer.
No, sir. I'm a common man.
Okay, good. No. I mean, you want to praise one company? Yeah. I mean, all the other companies. Huh? You're suffering. Why?
Because they're very rude and they're monopolizing.
Who?
Sir, Petronet, I would not like to waste everybody's.
No. Petronet is a terminal. They make terminals and they do that. So anyway, we'll discuss that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought you were praising Petronet. Okay, fine.
Other questions?
Yeah. So, just a suggestion that for the oil exploration, when we do talk about innovation, but the climate for innovation, I think if your ministry can encourage and have more of an open house for innovation, we can find cheaper ways and more success in finding oil, and also making our refineries and all that a little more productive. So I think innovation is, I just wanted to say that.
No. I mean, I'm on the side of innovation, but you see, I will. What you're saying is unexceptionable. But let me give you the other side of the story. Our industry, our refineries, some of them are very old, and you are constantly in a mood. So yesterday, when was it? Day before yesterday, I had a meeting with some of the, I won't name it because it becomes commercially sensitive, some of the people who have the technology to be able to do what refinery renovation is or repair, what they take a month. He said we can bring it down to 1 day. etc. And in the process, you know, every day that a refinery is closed, you lose a lot of money. So I'm entirely on your side. But you know, this is work in progress. As the minister involved, I cannot go public on the steps already being taken. Because I'll tell you, we need to show that. We have, by the way, every month we do a brainstorming. All the OMCs and us, and where we are taking up some of these issues that you are deciding. And I'm very happy to inform you that things are beginning to move.
The channel should be more open. That's all I'm. The encouragement for people to come forward and the channels of discovering.
100%, 100%.
Yes,
The encouragement will come from where? It will come from startups, it will come from so-and-so.
Yeah.
One of these companies, I see the CMD sitting with me, he, I think you had, what, 500 crores allocated for startups, and I told him, why don't you make it 4 times? He readily agreed. So anybody has a suggestion, our doors are open, we are going. But one is also to access places where global best practices are actually being implemented and to talk to those people. I think we are in the process of doing that as well.
Sir, I am Ponnun Swami, founder, managing director of Pure Chemical, Chennai.
Thoda ucha,
Yeah. Sir, I have a lot of appreciation for PSUs under your department. There, some of the your PSUs, even though 25% mandate for MSME vendor, they do 55%. Yeah.
Can you speak into the mic? Because
Sir, Sir, appreciation for your PSUs, company like Chennai Petroleum. See, you have mandatory buy from MSME about 25% of the procurement. They procure about 55%. Sir, you are unable to.
I'm trying to understand the question.
Sir, there is a government order when government buys 25% mandatory, they have to buy from MSMEs.
You have to buy what from MSMEs? Yeah, yes.
Much more.
I know that.
You like some companies 55%, some companies 37%.
If you are a good businessman and you're getting a product at a good price from a particular source, you'll buy as much as you can from there. But on the other hand, no. The problem arises, as I understand it, if you had a stipulation that you must buy from X, Y, or Z, and that X, Y, or Z is not able to give you the product that you're looking for, then that becomes zabardasti. But I don't see any difficulty. We're buying more.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I am co-chair for MSME National Council, CII. So on behalf of MSME, asking, I have one request. Whether you are R&D, and they can help more MSME to come as a vendor. If you are having 5,000 MSME vendors, can you make it to 5 times more? So that a lot of things, imported item also, they will be able to produce. Some coordination.
Yeah, no, absolutely. See, I started my understanding of what MSMEs was when I was a joint secretary in the Foreign Office. And then they said, yeah, Mittelstand hota the German, they were medium. But when I looked at their economy, they were $500 million companies qualified. So, देखो, ऐसा है. Our support for domestic industry is a given.
Yes.
It takes two to, clap and to tango. So, yes, we must support MSMEs. We will do whatever we can, but equally, they also have to rise to the... For instance, if you've got a big project coming up, and the project today, I can tell you, I was Urban Affairs Minister for 7 years. I mean, today when you start a project and you finish it within fixed timelines, etc., what becomes crucial is the equipment that you acquire. Now, in some other places, we had a problem. For instance, if you want to, in the metro system, the tunnel boring, we have to get the machines from outside. Now, I'm very happy to find yesterday a report saying that tunnel boring machines are going to be made in India also, because they are very expensive, etc. So, I'm entirely on your side. Yes, we will encourage them. We will do a lot of this thing, what procurement we are doing from that GEM portal also. It gives you predictability, it gives you a price, etc., and helps everybody. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Just one question, sir. Regarding the biofuels, you specified that 20% blending has been achieved, which I predominantly believe is because of ethanol. But somehow, the compressed biogas is something which is missing, which we know that, it doesn't require any engine change. It has various benefits. It can be more distributed, lower investments. Somehow this story of compressed biogas seems to be lingering for a while, and I believe a lot of, policy framework probably needs to be streamlined, because specifically when it comes down to fertilizer offtake, you have a huge foreign currency which can be saved with, the digestate. So any views on that as to how we can
I'm sorry.
get this compressed biogas?
I just want to understand, make sure that I've understood your question. You're talking about biofuel blending,
Right.
and you are asking about going beyond 20% and the hesitation in that.
No, what we said 20% blending is basically from what I understand, it's the ethanol blending. But CBG doesn't play a very important role in this blending.
Okay, I got it.
So
I got
the
it.
CNG, CBG is space, yeah.
Basic fuel, the basic fuel which is coming to the retail outlet is already blended 20%. That is the point. It's already got a 20% blend in it. Now you're talking about CBG, blending, etc. Why CBG is not picking up? Yeah, I have to spend an entire afternoon with you why CBG is not picking up. One of the things I think you alluded to, that in the CBG, when you produced that, you are also producing what is called, what are the initials? FOMA. Huh? FOM. Now, that FOM which is what gives you the money, really, okay? And there, that part has to be sorted out. And only day before yesterday, I had a meeting with some of the companies who are involved in that. But there are other issues also. Look, when you set the 5,000 target of SATAT, etc., I think it was a very ambitious target, and we hadn't looked at where land will come. Now, if I remember correctly, we have 79 plants operational CBG. We have another 100 in the various stages of completion. And I think our dialogue with the state governments is leading us to a situation where coming months, you'll see a pickup in CBG. How far we will get will depend on how much land is made available, what is the pricing, if they get this money for the fertilizer that is being produced. It will depend on those factors. There are other issues also, but I think the time here I just touched on the more important ones.
I think we'll have to close.
एक और करने
Chalo.
Sir, if I may.
By the time the mic comes, if you can ask.
Yeah. Minister, it's always a pleasure listening to you. I am actually tracking the energy transition sector. So I want to catch you on what you mentioned about rebranding as the Ministry of Energy Transition, because there are a lot of players on the government side also for this sector. So just wanted to understand if there is some sense of cohesiveness.
Some sense of?
Cohesiveness of all the ministries coming together, the MNRE, the MOEFCC, your ministry, on activating energy transition as a focused mission, just like it has been done for the National Critical Minerals Mission.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, but the more I look into this sector, I myself think that the current policy of doing it in different places is the correct one. Let me give you the example of the green hydrogen mission. Prime Minister announced it from the ramparts of the Red Fort, I think 15th August of 2023. Then the government took a decision as a basis of a recommendation made by a group of civil servants headed by the cabinet secretary, that there'll be 6 different people, parts of the government dealing with it. And rightly so. I mean, the petroleum and natural gas, because we want to use it in the refineries. So I used to joke around with my ex-colleague, who was then the Minister for MNRE. I used to tell him, तुम MNRE की बात करते हो, we are the energy ministry. मैंने कहा, बिजली में तो 17% लगता है. It's only 17%. Green hydrogen will take off when the refineries start utilizing it. And that's why, madam, I mentioned that tender of 10,000 tons, which IOCL has floated as a starting point. And because when somebody says I'm floating a tender, all I want to make sure is the price also comes down. Because if you're spending $150 billion, on energy imports, surely if the price comes down, let's say to $2.53, a public policy, public pressure will build. Move to green hydrogen, move to green hydrogen. Now, that will be good for a variety of reasons. I'm not going down the road like that famous economist of Shell who predicted in 1956 that oil will peak by the year 2000. And a lot of people took crazy decisions after that. Or oil will no longer be required. Arey bhai, with this kind of talk, and I can say this here with this audience, resulted in people not making money available for traditional energy sector, which means the investment in wherever the production was falling. You know, you have to put investment in so that every year you dig a well today, it's at a peak. Next year it'll drop by a few percent, then it'll drop. Then you put pressure water treatment to revive it, what ONGC is doing in Bombay High. So this kind of bad narrative results in bad decisions. Today, I think we are looking at all this. Every part of the government is serious. I read a report somewhere that they're going to have locomotives, railway locomotives running on green hydrogen. I'm delighted. I've got buses running on green hydrogen, which of course is a partnership between IOCL and Tata's. So let it take up. It's not necessary to have one Ministry of Energy Transition. As long as all of us who are dealing, including in my case with fossil fuels and gas, which we are increasingly going to, that we keep that transition and the sustainability part of the equation very much in focus. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's related to this only. Like you said, you are repositioning your ministry as Ministry of Energy Transition. Now, green hydrogen, you said, yes, it has to have the scale and the prices will come down. Similarly, there is another fuel which is important, is sustainable aviation fuel. Now, Indian government, are we thinking in terms of having some regulation that at least the way biofuels, you came out with 20% blending, unless you have some regulation.
I have good news for you.
Yeah, so which will drive the demand.
No, I have very good news for you. First, you're absolutely on the target. I'm sorry, in my rambling opening list, I forgot sustainable aviation fuel. Yeah. If sustainable aviation fuel is going to be made in large quantities anywhere in the world, it'll be countries like India, Brazil, United States, and perhaps China. Because you have biomass, etc. Number one. Number two, one day we were flying an Air Asia aircraft with a 1% mix from, I think, Pune to Delhi. And when I saw the atmosphere in the room, I just got up and announced that we will do 1% blending by 2027, 2% blending by 2028, and 3% blending by 2029. I would have thought somebody will later ask me, whose permission did you get? You announced it. Nobody asked me for any permission. They're very happy. My problem is that for 1% blending, I need 11 lakh. Sorry. I need 14, not 11, 14 crore liters. So, target now is in everybody's mind. So, but I have to produce those 14 crore liters. I think that is one of the more profitable areas of going forward. Why? Sometimes you need an external stimulus. And this external stimulus, I think, is coming in this case from the European Union, which is talking about a 5% blending mandate. But I think SAF is something which will be very big. I should have covered it, but you know, if you have a very indulging host who says, Boliye, then you pick up a few things. But SAF, I'm glad you asked this question. Yeah, it's one of the priority areas.
Thank you. We are exporting a lot of reactors for that in US and Europe.
I know that. I know that.
Thank you.
I'm very happy.
Shall we conclude?
Sure, conclude.
So I would just like to extend, on behalf of all of you, heartfelt thanks to the Honorable Minister. Thank you very much for spending the afternoon, very engaging conversation, and being, as always, frank, forthright, honest, and full of energy. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I now please request President-designate to hand over a token of appreciation to the Honorable Minister. May I request the dignitaries to please step forward for a group picture? वो लेके जाएंगे बोल दिया
Thank you, yeah, thank you.
Sir, एक छोटा सा mic, sir.
अरे वो तो लिया
Sir, boss, sir. आए हैं, sir. एक बार उधर जाने दो ना. Sir, बाहर आ जाए.